made by Marcus Allen, and he has a first down. He is stopped by Bennie Thompson, and he goes limping off.
All right, joining the Outsiders podcast today, special guest, ex-Chief, ex-Saint, ex-Cleveland Brown, ex-Baltimore Raven, Bennie Thompson. Thank you for joining us, Bennie. It is a pleasure to talk to you, my man.
It's my pleasure as well.
Well, welcome. We know we see you active on Facebook, talking football a lot, so it's great to have you. Now you're a Louisiana guy. You played for Eddie Robinson at Grambling. Just talk about that. I mean, talk about a legend in coaching. You played for Eddie Robinson. Just give us your thoughts on him and some stories you might have had with him.
Well, Coach Robinson was one of the kind of a guy that he was a father figure to all of the guys that came through Grambling. And one of the things I do remember him saying that everyone is not going to play professional football. So he prepared the guys for life outside of football, and that was one of his main things.
Yeah, and that endears to this day. And we actually just talked to ex-Chief Tracy Green, another ex-Grambling player, and he said, basically the same thing you did. So obviously this guy impacted a lot of lives.
Oh, definitely did, definitely.
Well, and then after Grambling, you wind up, in your first taste of the NFLs with the hometown Saints. Just talk about how that experience was playing in New Orleans and, how that went.
First, go through your draft day experience, if you could, just getting the call and getting drafted by the New Orleans Saints.
Well, actually, I didn't get drafted by New Orleans Saints. What happened to me was I went up and played 3 years up in Canada. Then I came back down to I signed with New Orleans, I think was 1991, as a free agent. And playing from your hometown, there isn't a guy in the NFL tell you that he wouldn't love playing in his own hometown. It was probably one of the greatest feelings in the world for me, being that it was my first taste of playing in the National Football League right there in my own hometown. So I couldn't have asked for a better strip than that.
Oh, absolutely. And from New Orleans, you wind up in Kansas City, which of course is where we're located, which is the team we cover, the Kansas City Chiefs, 92. You are part of and one of the most revamped and one of the best defenses of that era. You come in and really help out, with Derek Thomas, Neil Smith. The names are endless. Dan Seliamua. Just talk about that. You come to Kansas City. How did that come about? And just describe your time as a Chief.
Well, the thing about it was that I left New Orleans to come to Kansas City, and like I said, any guy would love to play in his hometown. It was hard on me at first, but once I got there, it was probably the best time of my life playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I can honestly stand here today and say the same thing. Playing for the Kansas City Chiefs was probably the best time of my life. They have the most amazing fan there is, and I used to love the yelling and screaming and hollering, and the Chiefs are the best at it, and they are true diehard fans. They're not the fan that they jump on the bandwagon and jump off. They jump on and jump off. They're not that kind of fan, because they was there every Sunday morning screaming and yelling at the players when we were pulling into the parking lot.
Especially at that time, it seemed like the defense and the fans almost were as one in that stadium, because the fans riled the defense up. You were talking about playing with guys, the Kevin Rosses and just guys like that. You guys took pride in shutting teams down at Arrowhead Stadium. That's what it was about. You shut especially in the division. You nailed John Elway. You nailed the Raiders. You guys brought the heat every time at Arrowhead Stadium. What was that like, just hearing those roars on Sundays?
Well, I got to meet probably one of the best things about me playing for Kansas City that I can always go back and look at is I got to play with one of the best pass rushers that ever played the game, in Derek Thomas. And we had Neil Smith and Dan Seliamua, and one of my best friends today, I happened to meet him through the Kansas City Chief, who's Dale Carter. Dale Carter and I are still good friends. And, you had Albert Lewis, who is from Grambling as well, and you had the Kevin Rock, and you had Deron Cherry and Laura Burrows and them kind of guys. And we just had great chemistry, man. I really love those guys.
What was it like playing for legendary coach, one of my all-time favorites, if not the favorite, Marty Schottenheimer?
Well, Marty may have been one of your favorites, but I got to honestly tell you, at first, he and I had a pretty good relationship, but some kind of way we got off track there, and that's why I wound up leaving. But Marty's the kind of guy, he coaches everything. He coaches offense, defense, special team. He coaches everything, and that's the kind of guy he is. If he wanted it to get done, he didn't depend on his staff to get it done. He went in and tried to get it done himself.
And that's kind of a rarity in today's NFL. But in 1992, you had 4 picks. Going into 93, you guys bring in Joe Montana, Marcus Allen. You make a run to the AFC title. Talk about that experience in 93 with those legendary players. The defense is already there and in place. Just describe how that felt to be in an AFC title game and one step from the Super Bowl.
Well, I can again say this, is that coming to Kansas City, I got to meet, like I said, the best pass rusher that ever played the game, probably one of the best running backs in Marcus Allen, and probably one of the best quarterbacks that ever played the game. So right there you have 3 Hall of Famers right there that I got the chance to play with, to be in the locker room with, and to be around those kind of guys. It was a blessing for me.
All right, 94, you head to the Cleveland Browns. What was that like with Bill Belichick, kind of the early days of Bill Belichick, and how was he like?
Well, I got to say, out of all my coaches that I played for, outside of Coach Robinson, Bill is probably my second favorite. Coach Eddie Robinson was my favorite. Bill Belichick is my second favorite. As of right now, I still root for him, not for the New England Patriots, but more so just for him because of who he is. Bill and I had a special kind of bonding. He did something for me that I don't think many head coaches does nowadays, and probably back in the day, but he did something special for me that really caused me to become attached to him. And right today, I love Bill Belichick for what he done.
What do you think? Of course, Bill Belichick winds up going to New England, winning 3 Super Bowls, being a legendary Hall of Fame coach. What do you think was in his way in Cleveland as far as that kind of success? How come do you think that didn't quite work in Cleveland for him?
Well, the thing about it is that when he was in Cleveland, he just didn't have the players on that team that could just go out and win football games. We were just not that good, and I say we meaning the whole team. We just wasn't that good, and I thought Bill did a phenomenal job with working with what he had. And so, but once he got to New England, then he got the chance to have a few good players, and then he made the best of it, and he came out with the Super. That's how he became to get the Super Bowl rings that he do have.
All right, the Cleveland Browns moved to Baltimore. You're home now. That's where you reside. What was that like, just moving to Baltimore, and then the drafting of Ray Lewis later on, and what's he like?
Well, coming to Baltimore, I didn't have any idea of where I was coming to, and I can recall the day we was all packing up, getting ready to leave, and the reporter popped the microphone into my face and asked me, what did I think about the move? And I think I gave the best quote there was. I just honestly told him, I'm just like a kid in a divorce. I have nothing to do with the moving. But, coming here to Baltimore, it was something new for me, a place that I've never been, probably never even heard much of it or much about it. And it was a great experience, and it was such a great experience until this is why I made Baltimore my home.
All right. Recently, unfortunately, we lost legendary owner of the Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens, Art Modell. Do you have any stories or things you'd like to share about Art?
Well, Art was a very funny guy, and he was, he's kind of like, to me, he was kind of like Coach Robinson. He was an older guy, but he knew what was going on at all times. He was one of the few guys, a few owners that was at practice every day until he just couldn't make it. But from the time I knew him from Cleveland, he would always be at practice on his golf course. And one of the funniest things he told me last time I saw him, I went over to him to shake his hand, and he said, "Wow, you still work for me?" And I said, "Well, I think so." He said, "Well, who signed your checks?" I said, "Well, somebody stamps your name on them. I don't know if you signed, but somebody put your name on them." But he was just that kind of a guy. He was a very, very funny guy, with a lot of humor in him, and he's going to be well missed.
All right, later in your career with the Ravens, that defense is growing, getting more talented and more talented. Can you just talk about that and watching it grow and players like Ed Reed and Ray Lewis?
Well, I got the chance to play with Ray. We drafted Ray back in 1996, and I got the chance to play with Ray. And I got to tell you, probably one of the smartest players I ever played with. He was definitely a student of the game. You know, he always wanted to learn, and he always wanted to be the best. That's why he's been going as long as he has now, because he's always wanted to continue to learn. And when you continue to learn, you're only going to get better. And that's the one thing that I can say about Ray Lewis is that he can probably play another 2 or 3 years because he still wants to learn.
He's an intimidating figure, no doubt, and he's still getting it done at his age. It's very admirable. And 13-year football career for you. Finishing up in Baltimore. Obviously, you still reside there. What are you up to nowadays, and what can you tell some of our Chiefs fans about, if you follow the Chiefs still, or what kind of, NFL teams you're still following?
Well, I'm just a football fanatic to where I just love football. I don't have a certain team, because when I say something about one team, somebody will say, well, didn't you play for this team? Yeah, but I played for Kansas City as well. Well, didn't you play for this team? Yeah, but I played for New Orleans as well. So I don't have a favorite team.
Sure.
I just love football, and I just love watching football, and I just wish that each and every one of the teams that I played for previously would play, win, and that's all I can hope for.
And that's a great attitude to have. And here in Kansas City, we're trying to get that done. But I'm sure you know Romeo Crennel probably pretty well. And how do you feel about him here in Kansas City? And it's been a rough start to the 2012 season. But how do you feel about Romeo? And what do you know about him and his defense?
Well, you know what? I personally don't know Romeo at all, because he was not with Bill when we was in Cleveland. So when Bill left Cleveland, he went to, I think, New England, I believe it was. So I don't know him that very well.
Well, so far it's been rough sledding here in Kansas City since the Marty era ended. So I don't know how much you keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs, but right now, like as far as 2 weeks into the season goes, who do you like? What are some things that you've seen that are of note here in the first couple weeks of the NFL season?
I can say this: they got one guy there in Kansas City that I know very, very well. I knew him before he got the job, and he and I spoke the day before he got the job or after he got the job, was Scott Pioli.
Uh-huh.
Scott Pioli was with Bill Belichick out in Cleveland, and he came to Baltimore as well. When we moved to Baltimore, I believe that's how that happened. But I do know Scott Pioli real well.
Well, that's great. I'll tell you what, Benny, it has been just great catching up with you. A great trip down memory lane for us. 2 seasons, guys, Chiefs fans. Bennie Thompson in that defensive backfield was as good as it got in the NFL at that time. Benny, thanks for joining us. You're going to have to come back on as the season progresses, and we'll talk some more with you. Thanks again for coming on, man.
All right. I appreciate it, guys.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Benny.
All right. Thank you.